Alright, so this is going to be more of an opinion-based video. It's not going to be the schematics and the detailed little, mechanical aspects of the ZigZag or anything like that. This is more of a, I've got about a year on the ZigZag now, and it's my experience, what I've found works the absolute best, and the different scenarios that the ZigZag gets used. I've kind of kept an eye on what everybody's done with the ZigZag, where the ZigZag has gone as far as advancements and everything, and it just seems to be that device that people go to when they're switching to a mechanical from ropes. So it's a really hard thing to do, to trust a mechanical device when you've put years in on ropes. So the switch itself, in my opinion, is a very scary thing. Maybe for some it was very easy, but for me personally, it was a weird thing. It's hard to trust a mechanical device as much as you trusted your ropes, because with use and success comes confidence. So I needed to get that success and use under my wing before I could come give you my opinion on the device. And this isn't so much, my opinion on a ZigZag or my opinion on this specific rope. This is my opinion on the relationship between the two. What is the best rope for a ZigZag? So, first, I guess we discuss the ZigZag. This is my ZigZag that I use. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure this is the ZigZag Plus. It has a swivel made onto it here, and then these links, the way it works. Go ahead, come up here. You take this. Okay, so here's your carabiner. But what you would do is take the device. It's got a bird flapper up here. You can press it down, and you start stacking links and compressing them together like this. And then you would put it there, and then you have to feed the rope through, and then this thing works as your micro pulley. So when on normal, like if you were climbing a hitch climber, you would have your micro pulley, which would be this part. Then you would have your prusik, which would be this part. So this is a mechanical prusik, basically. So my opinion personally, where some of them, there's a hole there and you would actually clip in with a carabiner. Either one. I prefer to use one of these kind of carabiners. This is the Eldred here. It has a stopper clip there. And then you have to, so it's like triple locking, which is a must in my opinion. And then plus, it has this pin that stops the carabiner from ever getting out of a line or flipping back over, so you're not gate loading. There's not even a chance for it. So that's my opinion. A good carabiner there is a must. I prefer this swivel because it gives me just kind of, I'm able to twist the device for perfect, work positioning, movement. So this is my setup. This is the one, I was actually gifted this by Jared Sprague. Jared's the one he's helped the channel so much, and he's the one that donated the book that we gave away just recently. So he sent me this, and I didn't know if I was going to be a fan, to be totally honest, but I end up loving it now. So it's became the most popular device, and a lot of people have it. So, like I said, there's going to be more detailed videos out there on some of this stuff, but this is just my opinion, and I'm going to touch some topics that I personally feel like are important for this. And then I definitely want to know in the end, maybe in the comments, if you guys like it, you don't like it, maybe an idea for something else. And the comment section can be there for more detailed questions. If you have a question about something specific to either one of these, whether it be the rope, some of the other stuff that we look at, or the ZigZag, just ask it. So, DRT use. That's what this device is made for, which is dual rope. If we was to set up a dual rope, real quick, I kept this here so that we can do this. This is very short. It's probably, this used to be a 200-foot rope. It is now, I'd say 20. Maybe it's like a lanyard. But I really like this rope for when I'm up in a tree and I'm using like a different device and I have a second tie-in. Because I only need about 20 foot. Oh, it's going to be a full-time job if my video keeps getting interrupted like that. This works good for, like, you know, I only need about 20 foot of length to be able to move around a little bit in the tree. It has a secondary tie-in, but it'll work perfect for the demonstrations here. So you run it through there, through the end of your rope. I prefer any rope that I use, I like to have a sewn eye at the end. So you can't put it through this end because there's sewn eye. Has to go through the other end, and it really helps to have the end burnt and compressed and really small, and so it'll twist through there and not catch. So just another idea for those that are doing that. So we'll take this, we'll throw it up here like that. Now, when you're using it DRT, you're gonna go ahead and clip it in here. So you have options, but we're just going to go with a regular carabiner. So we take this little O carabiner. These seem to work the best. There's like a gusset thing in there that really bites down to keep the carabiner from rolling, which is nice. So we'll take that, we put it through, and we hook it up. And now we're set up DRT. We would clip in and we'll move this device. Now, when I'm climbing DRT with the ZigZag, I like to have really good action. Which, when I say action, that means like when I want movement, I get movement instantly. And the way to get that isn't usually, when you're going through a natural crotch, you're creating a bunch of friction, it slows you down. So I would prefer, if I'm climbing DRT, I usually want to use a micro pulley. There's a way to set these up to back them up because, you know, some of these micro pulleys aren't the strongest. So there's a way to hook it up and use the carabiner and lock it off double. Maybe I'll show that in a different video. But if I'm not using a micro pulley, I'm using a friction saver. So there's tons of different kinds of friction savers. They're also called cambium savers. I would suggest to get one. It's going to increase the longevity of your rope because it's not running through a bunch of bark, tearing it up. And you're going to get, like I said, the action's going to be 10 times better. So, that DRT is what this thing was intended for. Dual rope. So when I say DRT, 1, 2, 2 ropes. Now, I personally prefer SRT. Now, I've spent a lot of time with DRT. And when I say SRT, that's a single rope. I like to climb on a single rope. When it's dual rope, some of you aren't going to have a sewn eye. So you'll be forced to, let's say, tie a knot up in the end. So the thing I've noticed, it seems to work a little better when you're tying the knot if you, it's just weird knots right here. You don't want a big lump anywhere near these links because they'll catch the link and make it go down. You know, you don't want anything that's going to bite against that. So a good loop, sometimes guys that use a bowline, it's just having clearance right here. So you want to make sure, usually the carabiner will lift it up high enough so you'll have that clearance. Some carabiners are smaller. Sometimes guys will use a quickie link, which we'll use when we go into the SRT aspect of it. But that's a little bit on DRT. I don't want to go too much in detail on it. So I personally switch over to SRT. And that's what I wanted to know. First of all, with this, do you have to have the chicane? Because they say this is not intended for SRT use unless you're using the chicane And I personally feel like that's just a crock, and that's them trying to sell their products where they've went out and kind of stole the ideals of the guys that built the correct tethers, like Rion Rounds, and my personal favorite, which is Greg Brown's tether. So now we're anchored off, we're on a single line. This thing in SRT, do you have to have the chicane? No. I've used the Greg Brown tether ever since I've got this, and I love it. Greg has come up with a beautiful tether. He has different attachments down here, depending on what device you're going to use. Special ones for each one, and they bolt in right there, and that's it. So my difference when I'm using this thing in SRT, this rope is the rope that I want to, that is my favorite. Now I'll tell you what it is here in just a little bit, but like I said, this used to be a 200-foot rope. It's cut into about 3 sections now. Here's one, bunch of small ropes, which isn't good. So now this rope is great for knots and everything, and it's stiff, so it's really good for SRT. I've never had this thing slip. I've never had any issues. So when I'm hooking it up, you want a rope wrench, and I've noticed that the actual bend that this tether has in it is a must in using this, because then you're not ending up with it running into, you know, your zigzag. That natural bend helps the flex and the action on the actual rope wrench head. So right here, you can hook in a carabiner, and it's going to be hanging off quite a bit. Ends up being a bit gaudy here for my, to me. So I use, when I'm doing this, I prefer to use a quickie link, which this one's from Notch. It's got 2 stopper pins. You pop or you push them in. Now, when you're trying to put these pins in there and take them out, you got to twist when you're putting it into the zigzag or taking it out, and it's a little bit tricky sometimes. So just heads up beforehand, it does get a bit tricky to get these pins in and out, but works 10 times better in my opinion, and looks a bit better and more kind of compact. So you line everything up, then you put the pin in. The pin goes in easy, but those little flappers are a little tricky when you're trying to get the pin back out. So just twisting as you're doing it, they come out. So now you have this little hook here. It's not a big carabiner that's in the way. So this little hook now gives me a spot to put my chest harness or neck tether, or whatever it is that you use, or your lanyard over your shoulder to tend slack as you're rope walking. So this is my SRT setup for the zigzag. I love the Greg Brown tether. I don't know if that's something that he wants to get into, but it's kind of a special, something that he's built for me, and I don't know if it's something that he wants to buy, but if it is, I'll let you guys know later. There is the Rion Rounds tether, and there's this chicane. So I'm sure different people have different opinions of what's better. So kind of went over my experience with the device. In fact, do you need the chicane or not? I probably used it around a year. Like I said, there's been issues with having too big of a knot right here in this area, and it catches. Or also with this kind of rope, it has a really big sonai at the end that has plastic on it, which I loved because of how strong that is and how hard it'd be to get any threads out. But they have switched this to the newer rope that we're going to. They switched the design, and I'll compare the two when we jump into it. So another big thing about the zigzag, it's not midline attachable. So you gotta run it through the end of the rope. If you want to be able to use your rope both ways, you probably don't want a sonai. I personally am fine with using it one way. I'm personally fine. My video cut off again. Fine using it one way. I have to go back and find out where I was at. But yeah, for those of you that want to be able to use the rope either way with no issues, you may not want a sonai because you can't use that end. It will not feed through. So that's okay, let's see here. So we've talked about my experience with it, how long I've used it, the issues and problems I've kind of ran into, and the big things that it's not, midline attachable. Picking the proper rope. I've had some ropes that will slip some. They didn't bite right. They were too flexible. They weren't stiff enough, so they didn't bite. Especially in SRT, you're going to get a lot of ropes that are going to maybe even work or work better in DRT, because you don't need the device to react and create as much friction then, because you're getting some from it running dual, kind of between the two ropes. When on single, you're on one spot and you need all that friction to react, dead on. I've had some ropes that slip, so I've dealt with some that don't work the greatest. Some half-inch ropes didn't work for me, even though it should have, and sometimes I had some 11/7s, some 12 millimeters. It took a while to find the right rope. It just so happened I had the right rope, the perfect rope. It was all cut up, so I started to use it. It's awesome. So, that was really cool to be able to just kind of check out, oh shoot, I have a good rope. Let me try it out. It had the Sonai. The thought of not being able to use it both ways kept me from using it, but then when I tried it, I was sold instantly. I've used that nonstop for the most part since. Now, what is my favorite rope? What's the best rope for a zigzag? Let me show you. I have a brand new one right here. Here's your best rope for a zigzag, in my opinion. I don't know if that's backwards. There's a good chance it probably is, but this is All Gear Cherry Bomb. Now the specifics, size-wise on the rope, this is an 11.2 millimeter. 150 foot rope. It's got a splice tight eye, and let's see, some specifics on the rope. Diameter 11.2 millimeter. Safe working loads 567 on the splice. Tensile strength's like 6,300 pounds. Elongations 4.9% at 30% tensile. Specific gravity 1.38. It's a 24 strand poly jacket over 12 strand poly core. Twisted and cabled inner core. So I love the rope. Like I said, I think you need a good stiff rope. Needs to have some real stiffness to it when you're doing SRT. But you also want a rope that you're going to be able to take and knot up and put some knots into and stuff. You don't want a rope so stiff that you can't knot it. So being able to knot the rope, it's a big deal. Very knottable. But the one thing I did want to show you guys is that there is a difference now between the Sonai. Let's see if I can get this out of there without ripping the whole bag open. Yep. Alright. So, now, here is the new Sonai and what I'm going to be using. I prefer this now because it doesn't have that big hunk of plastic right here that's right next to the gree teeth, or the links. That plastic would sometimes catch or get in a bind sideways. That's awesome. So, my opinion, All Gear makes some of the best, or they have the best spliced eye in my opinion. Very similar to this one is Teufelberger. They have a very similar splice. I actually have that rope too, Tachyon Ash. It's a pretty good rope. I wouldn't say it's as good as this one, but another good rope would be the Tachyon Ash from Teufelberger. Good Sonai on it, but now I showed you that eye. Let me get this carabiner out of this so I can show you this one, and you can kind of compare the big gaudiness that we was able to get rid of. So see the big hunk. I do like these little plastic things here that keep the eye open and keep it stiff. But yeah, maybe I'll buy some of those and put them in. But you can see there's a huge difference. I think they do the eyes different too. Now it's inset instead of, it was next to it and sewn, so maybe it's better even now. So All Gear Cherry Bomb. Another rope from All Gear that does work is the Rocket Line. This is another one from them. You could maybe check on it. I don't know. I know they have a Cherry Bomb 2 now, but I don't know if they've done anything else with the Rocket Line. But this was the rope that got me to that rope. I was suggested this at a climber camp out one time from some really advanced climbers, Tony Nemkowski and Ron Rhino. They advanced me so much in those couple days, it was unreal. So, All Gear Cherry Bomb, that's my favorite rope. My experience with the rope, I kind of just went through it. It's great. I've been able to use it with my gree. I use it with a hitch climber. I've used it with every kind of device. I've never had to have issues with anything. It's just like that universal, just perfect rope. My personal opinion. All Gear have never shared a post of mine. All Gear has never really even liked any of my posts. I do a lot of advertising for All Gear, and I don't want them. That's not my intention. There's just some things from All Gear that I really, really do like. So when it comes to ropes, they do a lot of things right. Slings. So yeah, don't think that like I'm getting some super discount or they're gonna hook me up with something, and that's why I did this video. I did this video because I get asked all the time, what rope do you use? What's the best rope for this? What do you think would be work best for SRT, DRT? Is there a rope that'll work for both? This ended up being it. So I've been procrastinating on this video for a long time because it forces me to sit in front of the camera and talk, which I don't really like doing. So I'm about done here. Actually, I am done. That's it, guys. All Gear Cherry Bomb. It says it's 11.2, but I've used some 11.2s before that slip, but this one does. I don't know there. Maybe 11.2 is that sweet spot for the ZigZag. I don't personally know. That's why a lot of other ropes wouldn't fit. And yeah, guys, tell me if you like this kind of video. Tell me if maybe you want me to do it on something else. Maybe a different subject, maybe rigging, other climbing devices. I don't have a lot of different climbing devices, but I can do it on what I got. Rope wrench, stuff like that. So that's it. If you need a rope that works for DRT, SRT, for your ZigZag, go buy the All Gear Cherry Bomb. I'll catch you on the next one. Man, I look smart in these glasses. Stay safe.